Just about the cutest pictures ever. What is happening right here?
It's switching.
They have little,
Oh, it's a little sponge.
what is it called? It's a thing.
Finding Nemo.
It's sea anemone
Anemone.
rolling on their back, their shells.
Yeah, there's an anemone living on the shell of a hermit crab. Do you think the anemone is harming? Do you think the anemone is harming the hermit crab?
No. Symbiotic relationship.
Well, a symbiotic relationship could mean that it's being harmed as well.
Oh, maybe it's like.
Is it sucking the life out of them?
No.
Parasitic relationship.
I mean, you can look at it as a parasitic relationship, but in this situation, it's not. This one is mutualism.
Okay.
The hermit crab gets food from, or the hermit crab gets protection from the sea anemone, because sea anemones shock and harm other organisms. So anything that tries to eat the crab gets a nice bolt of venom, toxins from the sea anemone, and the sea anemone gets a free ride. It's a mobile home. The hermit crab is a mobile home.
Aw, it's like a tiny house.
It's a tiny house. It's such a good photo of what we're going to be talking about today, which is symbiosis and the different types of symbiosis.
Do they talk to each other? Like through their
No, they don't telepathically talk to each other. Sea anemone.
That'd be nice.
Anemone.
How could this be considered a parasitic relationship?
If it gets too big, it might like make it sick.
Right. The good news is hermit crabs can switch shells. They can get new shells when they get too big. So
Abandon the anemone.
leave the anemone behind.
Goodbye, friend. Or so you thought.
I've had enough of you. So today is all about social relationships, and not the relationships that you guys have in high school. We're not gonna talk about that. Those relationships are not interesting.
Kendra, me and Ben just broke up.
Hashtag deep. You want to tweet about it?
Hashtags are so like. I have a Twitter.
I don't have a Twitter.
I'm not even joking. I don't. Emma sneaks.
Wow, I can hardly read my relationship. Looks like
Are we ready for social relationships?
Yeah.
social
Are
relationship.
we on the ball? So the first one is symbiosis. This is our big topic underneath social relationships. There are a whole bunch of different types of symbioses that we're going to talk about. But this is kind of the big heading here. So a symbiosis is any type of relationship that is formed between two or more organisms. Could be positive, could be negative, could be short term, could be long term. But in general, symbiosis is a way, at least for one of the organisms, to get some sort of fitness or they get something out of it. So, could be food, could be shelter, could be protection. But usually it's kind of about those big things, food or protection or shelter. Here we have the aggressive hippo. What do hippos have really big in their mouth? Yeah, they got massive tusks. They also have a lot of really flappy gums. Flappy gums are good for trapping food, which can also lead to, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not infestation. What? What is it called? You get a parasite or a bacteria. Oh, why can't I think of what it's called?
Gingivitis?
No. What is an itis? When you have an infection. An infection. Infection. Did anyone have a bulldog at home?
No,
Bulldogs can have this kind of issue where they get food trapped in the folds of their mouths. It can lead to an infection. I keep thinking infestation. Infection. So the hippopotamus here has these fish friends that go inside of their mouth. He opens up his mouth. The hippo doesn't eat the fish, but the fish eat the crumbs and scraps of food that are inside of his mouth, keeping him healthy and clean. It's a free version of a dentist.
Can we do this?
You actually can. There are places you can go swimming where there are fish that do this. You can go in, open up your mouth. They will go inside your mouth and pick out the little pieces of food in your.
Will they poop in your mouth?
Oh, I'm not having that.
It's trade-off. Clean teeth, poop in the mouth.
I'd rather not have a
Well,
computer.
yeah, exactly. Let's think about this.
Or you have the sleeping lion with the obnoxious flies around it, and you have the lion's little friend, the lizard, eating the flies.
Small.
Smog. Symbioses don't have to be super complicated. Some of them are. Some of them are like the frog or the lizard and the lion. Here is one that's a little bit more complicated than a lizard and a lion.
What's going on there?
What's happening?
Whenever a huge tree falls in the Costa Rican rainforest, a gap of sunlight is formed in the canopy. New life competes for this light, like this vine racing this sapling upward. But there's one tree that never has any competition, thanks to an incredible symbiotic relationship it shares with an ant. The swollen thorn acacia and its namesake, the acacia ant, have developed harmonious roles in each other's lives. The ant's role is as protector. If any of those vines try to steal the acacia's light, the ant security guards go to work. A few good chomps on the vine stems, and it's lights out for the vine.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was intense.
The ants don't stop there. This relatively huge grasshopper may think it's going to take a few bites out of the non-poisonous acacia. But the ants take a few bites out of it instead.
Oh my god.
And they throw in a few stings for good measure. In exchange for all this protection, the tree takes on the provider role. It gives the insect everything it needs in terms of food and shelter. These little nodules, or nectaries, secrete a sweet nectar for the adult ants to eat. And these brownish pods at the end of some leaves are the perfect, nutrient-packed food for the ants' developing young, called larvae. The acacia ant larvae live down hollowed-out thorns at the base of the acacia leaves. Some will eventually grow into adults with wings and will fly off to replicate this evolutionary masterpiece in a new acacia.
Magic.
I don't like their larvae.
That's a very intense symbiosis. So what is the tree getting out of this situation?
Protection.
Protection. The tree is protected by the ants, and it's protected very well. If any vine grows close to the tree, the ants go to work. They, with their little tiny jaws, cut through the vine, protecting the sunlight, which is a big issue or big commodity that trees need in rainforests. And they also protect it from things that might want to eat the leaves or the parts of the acacia tree. What does the ant get out of it?
It gets
Food
Shelter.
and food and shelter.
For the babies.
Los bebés. Los bebés.
They're ugly babies.
Go there.
This relationship right here would take a while to develop. This is not going to be something that pops up very quickly. This is going to take some time. This is going to take some evolution for this to work out.
They're ugly, nasty little larvae creatures that they somehow.
They're babies.
They're so
They're-
gross.
I don't know. Have you ever seen a newborn baby? Like a baby?
Yeah, they're gross.
So there's the best kind of symbiosis, mutualism, where both organisms benefit in some way. Both organisms get something out of it. So in the top right picture there, this is actually called it's a type of sponge. It's a violet sponge. I don't know why it's called a violet sponge because it's clear, but it's called a violet sponge. And inside of that sponge, there's always live two shrimp. The shrimp get protection from the sponge, and the shrimp consume anything that would eat that sponge from the inside of it. So the way this works out is the shrimp, when they're in their larval stage, they're really small, they're free swimming, swim inside of the sponge, and as they grow into adulthood, they get so big that they can't actually leave the sponge.
Oh.
So the shrimp die inside of the sponge. But the shrimp have protection. They also get food out of the deal. The sponge gets protection. Somebody that can clean out the pores, keep it safe. And everyone loves clownfish.
Because they're funny.
Clownfish tell jokes. Everybody knows that. The sea anemone and the clownfish. What does the sea anemone get out of the relationship?
It gets some fish. They get to tickle the fish.
Sea anemone. Sea anemone are filter feeders. So you like bacteria and plankton.
Oh, so do they eat the dead skin off the fish? Or am I just being?
Well, we're looking at what the anemone gets out of the relationship. A little bit of protection, but the clownfish mainly acts as kind of a janitor. He cleans up the anemone so they don't get an infestation, get the parasites living on it. The clownfish keeps it clean. The anemone gives the clownfish what? Shelter, protection, a place to live.
So it seems like the anemone does more than the clownfish does for it.
And that is some relationships, yeah. Some mutualistic relationships, one might get a small trade-off, while the other gets a really big trade-off from the relationship. It's not always equal. What, based on Wisconsin where we live, what might be a mutualistic relationship that we can think about or know about?
Farming.
What about farming?
Like, let's say someone is a farmer and they have chickens. They feed. Oh, I never said you. They feed the chickens and they give chicken shelter, and the chicken in return, we take the eggs.
So yeah, when in farming, as long as we don't kill the animal, it's a mutualistic relationship. We get eggs from the chickens, we give them shelter and food, it's all good.
On Wildcraft one time, I saw
On
it
what?
was like a honey badger and a honey songbird sort of thing.
Yeah, so in that relationship, the songbird leaves, I can't remember what the bird is called, but the bird leads the badgers to honey, and then the badgers take out the bees, and then the songbird gets some food out of it as well.
I thought the wild crabs were kind of.
Yep, dogs are a great one. We get emotional stability out of dogs. Dogs get also emotional stability as well as home and food and cats, same kind of thing.
Cats give emotional stability.
You're a cat.
Depends.
I got both. I got a cat.
Yo.
Here's another type of relationship. This one's a little bit more disgusting.
Ew. That looks like a corpse.
Almost 60 centimeters high, this is the immense flower of the elephant yam. Locals call it the witch of the forest.
There could be a Disney movie about this flower.
You should make one.
That should be
As the stars rise, the witch begins to cast her spell. The forest temperature drops, but the flower starts to heat up.
You might know.
A heat-sensitive camera reveals the flower's temperature rising by an incredible 10 degrees Celsius.
Wasn't that like really warm?
What the?
At the same time, a noxious stench of rotting flesh fills the forest air.
Oh.
Yeah.
As the flower's heat increases,
It's not pretty.
a cloud of odor rises up. The foul perfume carries far and wide. It doesn't go unnoticed. Carrion beetles arrive on the scene.
Yeah.
The beetles come in search of a feast of warm, decaying flesh. But they've been tricked. Slippery sides ensure they tumble straight into the center of the monster flower.
Down they go.
It's like a water slide, yeah.
There's not enough room to spread their wings, and the waxy walls ensure that there's no escape.
He's gonna fall. He's gonna fall.
Oh
But
no.
there's nothing sinister in the flower's agenda. The beetles will be its unwitting helpers.
Wait, what? It doesn't kill them?
Dawn arrives,
Nope.
but the flower remains unchanged, holding its captives through the day.
What's going on there?
Look at all those beetles.
As the second night falls, the witch stirs again. In a matter of minutes, the flower's precious golden pollen squeezes from the stamens and begins to fall, showering onto the captive beetles below.
So it kills it.
No, it needs the beetles to go pollinate other
Now, at last, the prisoners are free to go. The flower's wall changes texture, becoming rough
That's so weird.
to provide the ideal escape ladder.
Okay, that's really cool.
Loaded with their pollen parcels, they can now climb to freedom,
Yeah.
just as other forest witches are beginning to open. Seduced by the irresistible perfume, the beetles are sure to pay a visit,
Oh shit.
so ensuring
Again.
pollination and another generation of incredibly big, smelly flowers.
What the heck?
So what does the flower get out of the relationship?
Pollination.
Pollination. Does this flower smell like a normal flower?
No, yeah.
No. Actually, originally what scientists and based on data studies we've come up with, the first flowers actually smelled like rotting flesh more than like a nice perfume.
Ugh.
Because there were plenty of beetles around to pollinate, other insects around to pollinate. There weren't like bees involved yet. So nice smelling perfumes weren't a thing quite yet. So stinky flowers. The beetles pollinate the flowers. Do the beetles get anything out of it?
A record deal.
No.
Not really. The beetles are they harmed in any way?
I mean, it might.
They take a short stumble, but like,
The shorts.
but they're not harmed in any way.
That's just other
So the flower benefits, the beetles don't really care.
So the flower feeds off of like normal flower things, right?
Yeah, the flower feeds off the stuff in the soil. That's all about pollination, is what's going on in that relationship. So this is commensalism, where one organism benefits, the other one is indifferent. They're not harmed, they don't get something out of it, they're just kind of along for the ride.
Kind of sounds like communism.
Burrs, the bane of my existence, they don't, when you get a burr like hunting or you're walking through the forest in the fall, they don't harm you, but you don't get anything out of it, they're just annoying. Same for a dog, like they get them stuck in their fur, it doesn't harm the dog, it doesn't hurt them in any way,
It's a dog.
but it doesn't benefit them either.
You gotta take them out and then they get all, and then, you know.
Well, taking it out, that's something you're doing. The burrs aren't hurting them, it's you taking them out that hurts the dog. The burrs get a free ride. When it comes to plants and plant biology, you need to spread out. Obviously, plants don't move very well on their own. Last time I checked, they don't get up and crawl around. Tumbleweed dispersal method. So some plants use animals to do it for them. So they don't have a parent and all the parent or the offspring of that plant right around it competing. Here we have the mouth of a blue whale. What is the other organism? Well, not blue whale. This is a humpback whale. What is the other organism in this picture with the humpback whale? Barnacles. Little gross, disgusting creatures.
You ever seen Flushed Away? I love when he's trying to get him off the side of the ship and he's like, "Arr."
Barnacles are just little crustaceans. They got hard shells. They live on boats. They consume small organisms. They're filter feeders. You will quite often find whales that have barnacles or marks of barnacles on them. Does the barnacle hurt the whale in any way? No, the barnacle doesn't consume any part of the whale. It doesn't offer any protection. It's a barnacle. It doesn't do much. Does the barnacle benefit from the relationship?
Yes.
Yeah, you bet. The barnacle, one, gets protection from the whale. There's not too much that's brave enough or dumb enough to come up to a full-size whale and try to pick stuff off of it.
I'm gonna eat you.
Largest organisms that ever lived, so you're not going to come up right to them.
Megalodon.
Megalodon is another story.
Megalodon confirmed.
You said ever live.
Megalodon isn't the largest organism that ever lived. Whales are.
Wait, like modern day whales?
Modern day whales. The blue whale is the largest known organism to ever live. It's 180 tons.
Times
What
that
about
by
the
two, that's like
360
that's like
tons.
1.6 million
What
pounds.
about the long-necked?
That's a
snake?
lot.
That's not a million pounds.
It's something like that.
They're big. They're the Brontosaurus. Those guys, Argentiniansaurus. They were like 108 tons.
How long did it take for their nervous system to go from point
Long
to
time.
point?
Oh, I'm sorry, it was 360,000.
360,000 tons times
I'm
2
burning to death.
Is it 100?
or times 2,000.
They're already physically dead, but they're not
Ah,
Commensalism makes sense.
360,000.
Now here's my favorite one. If you're squeamish,
Is it inside of
Our
it?
parasitized caterpillar has spent the last 12 days gorging itself.
Oh,
It now appears profoundly obese. But this is not all fat. The glomerata wasp larvae lie just under its skin. Each is the size of a grain of rice, but together
That's my
they
question. I do
account
not
for
know the
over a
answer to that
third of
question.
the caterpillar's weight.
They made it easy for
The larvae have not yet finished growing and need to keep their host alive. So although they feast on the caterpillar's blood, they have been careful not to touch a single one of its vital organs.
So how do they know what's the vital organ?
Evolution.
This uneasy truce will not last. Within days, the larvae are fully matured. Suddenly, they begin to stir into action. For the past 2
These aren't
weeks,
bot flies.
this
but
surrogate
same
woman
idea.
has protected them, but now they no longer need it. To complete the next stage of their life cycle, they must break out. The caterpillar's thick skin should be a solid barrier to the parasitic wasp larvae. But as their bodies have grown, they have developed tiny saw-like teeth. These jagged jaws are for one job only: cutting their way out. Stroke by stroke, the larvae slice through the tough layers of skin.
It's not over yet.
At the same time,
It's gonna be like
they
that
release
scene in
chemicals
Alien.
that paralyze the caterpillar.
That's so rude. It's still alive.
It's still alive.
As the larvae break through, there is nothing it can do.
Look at how many larvae come out of that little caterpillar.
Free at last, the larvae enter a new phase of development.
Are they gonna eat it now?
They swiftly spin silken cocoons.
What the
These will provide the perfect environment for their final transformation.
heck? Oh my god. It's still alive?
Yeah, the caterpillar's still alive.
But ironically, one of the greatest dangers the larvae will face is being themselves impregnated by other species of parasitic wasp. Incredibly, the wounded caterpillar helps them out. Usually, a caterpillar would spin a silken blanket to make its own cocoon. But the parasitized caterpillar spins his blanket on top of the wasp cocoons, giving them an extra layer of protection. Scientists believe the same wasp virus that infected it weeks before has now invaded the caterpillar's brain and caused this bizarre corruption of its normal behavior. Amazingly, the caterpillar's natural aggression is now also exploited by the wasp virus. The caterpillar becomes a bodyguard, actively protecting the cocoons from other parasites. It will watch over them unceasingly until it eventually starves to death.
What?
That was
that was great.
What?
That
That
sucks.
was awful.
That's ecology.
Cool.
Until it eventually starves to death.
Main story here: wasps are all jerks. Okay.
I agree.
Just like organs.
Wasps are all jerks. Wasp obviously benefits here. Gets shelter, food, and protection.
Dang.
Lives inside the caterpillar, grows inside the caterpillar, erupts out of the caterpillar. Caterpillar then wraps a cocoon around the wasps that were eating it, And then finally, the caterpillar protects the wasps, so the wasps themselves don't become parasitized by other parasitic wasps.
It's an abusive relationship.
Parasitic relationships do a lot of stuff like this. They are weird. They do strange things. And they're kind of disturbing a lot of the time.
Oh, I've seen that one picture when you
Fix
think
it all,
it's
can we
fun.
have that thing? Small players.
Parasitic relationship, one organism benefits, the other one is harmed or killed. Not always killed, sometimes it's to the benefit of the organism to keep it alive, because if it's alive and there's nothing to eat. Sometimes they do kill it.
What's that top picture on the top?
This top picture is a fish, and this right here is what's left of the fish's tongue.
Ew.
This arthropod right here literally isopod, literally swims inside of the fish's mouth, grabs onto the fish's tongue, and in the process of grabbing it, pinches off the blood supply to the tongue. And this little guy gets a home, harms the fish, doesn't kill the fish, harms it, and gets a free meal because every time the fish eats, this guy gets to eat.
What is the fish with the sweet teeth?
Yeah.
There are fish that, specifically coral-eating fish, that do have hard exterior mouth parts, so they can eat coral, take bites off.
How does the fish still live though? It can't really swallow it.
It doesn't eat it. It doesn't block all the food because it is a tongue. It can squash itself down a little bit. This is a larger one. If it does get too big, then the fish can't eat, and then the fish dies, and then the isopod would die because the fish is dead. Here we have a parasitic plant. Yes, plants can be parasitic. This plant right here is high up in the canopy in the rainforest.
Just decides to grow on out of the tree.
Gets a better spot because it has more sunlight, and then it gets nutrients from the tree. The roots literally dig into the trunk of the tree and steal nutrients from the tree. So the tree is harmed, the plant gets benefits. The plant is benefited. And here we have a heartworm, or a whole bunch of heartworms, and this is a dog heart.
Oh, poor dog.
When I was really young, my dog had heartworms really bad. So we gave him the heartworm medication. Well, when we were gone, somehow he got the heartworm medication off the counter and consumed the whole bottle of heartworm medication at one time. And he was foaming at the mouth when we got back. So my dad had to hold down the dog, and then had to feed him hydrogen peroxide because we had to induce vomiting. Dog lived. The dog survived another 10 years, but that same dog ate all of my mom's wedding photos.
What?
All of them.
Would that dog also eat your homework?
I don't know how that dog survived to make it to 13 years old. I really don't. Because not only, it was in a plastic tub, so we got the plastic tub top off, and then consumed all of the photos. Not part of them, all of the photos. There is one teeny tiny album or photo album that my mom had separated that still have her wedding photos. What parasitic relationships do you guys know about in western Wisconsin?
Tapeworm.
Tapeworms. Tapeworms are really cool. Every species of mammal has its own unique tapeworm that goes along with it.
Hunting.
Huh?
What?
Hunting.
Human kills the deer.
Well, there is a human tapeworm. There is a bovine tapeworm. Pig tapeworm.
With ticks.
Ticks are a parasitic relationship.
Botfly.
Botfly is a parasitic relationship.
No, it's not, because we literally had to have taken we took a barn cat once, and there's a botfly in the side of its neck.
There was a video that came out this summer that I saw where there was a robin that was covered in botflies. They were like removing it, and there were like 7 botflies like in that one.
These things are like just giant.
If we have time at the end of class, I'll show it to you. Parasitic relationships are the coolest because what happens is there's a lot of trade-offs going here. The host evolves to protect itself from the parasite, and as the host evolves in protection, the parasite evolves right along with it. So the host might get a step up, the parasite steps up right behind it. And it's an endless process. The host evolves as something to protect it. The parasite evolves a trait that can help it be more successful parasitizing its host. What's happening in all of these photos?
There's a peacock.
A peacock. What's special about a peacock?
It's colorful.
It's colorful. It's very colorful. What else?
Oh, is this how they mate or something?
So, it has to do with the mating process.
I thought it was for defense. Like.
The feathers are not for defense.
Well, no, like to like scare them. I thought that was what they were for.
No. No.
Used to get
What are the antlers on a moose used for?
fight.
Fighting. Bigger the better, right?
Scraping. I actually figured out like the reason why they scrape is because they give off like some sort of like chemical or whatever on trees and like ground scrapes and stuff.
What's this bird right here trying to do?
Looks like
It's not defending itself.
What did it do?
It's trying to mate. It's trying to attract a mate. What is this ant doing?
It looks like it has like a.
These are its eyes, if it helps.
I was gonna say, it looks
The
like
eyes are out here.
What?
So they're trying to look.
God,
No.
freaking hammerhead shark looking.
And here is a guppy. What's this guy trying to do?
Flare up the fish. Flare.
So basically, they're just flexing.
That's exactly what these are doing. All of these organisms have huge, unrealistic sized appendages purely because of mating.
Moose, I can
A lot of time with all the time with evolution, mating drives your evolution. Specifically, usually the female decides and helps contribute to what male organisms look like. So usually, females, especially with birds, females select organisms that have larger feathers, more colorful feathers, stick out more than their other partners. In this case, not only have large feathers, not only have colorful feathers, but have a unique dance that goes along with it.
Is
What
that
is
what
it
that
called?
bird's doing? now?
Yes, it's a mating dance.
What kind of a bird is
It's
that?
a bird of paradise. There's many species, but it's a type of bird of paradise.
Why does it look like?
It doesn't normally do that. So normally the feathers are flicked back. It looks like an ordinary bird, but it has muscles that allow it to push those feathers forward and make that dome disc a satellite dish.
It's like a blue mouth.
This way,
Yeah.
this way the female bird is like trapped and enclosed. It can't really escape, and it's focused on this male.
Why?
Imagine just seeing that like coming out. Just being like.
So this is all about sexual selection. Another type of natural selection. This one's sexual selection, meaning that one of the mates, male or female, drives the way certain characteristics are passed on. Here we have, and this is pretty common with birds and some mammals, male birds are usually very colorful. Pheasants, turkeys, peacocks, cardinals, blue jays. The males are almost always super colorful. The females are brown, speckled. They don't usually have extreme colors. With animals that have horns or antlers, the horn size is all driven by sexual selection. Do you think, outside of mating, this color pattern is going to help out a pheasant at all?
Somewhat if it's in like a field of grass.
The bottom half of it, yeah. The top head, the head in the red,
No.
is that going to help it do anything in nature? No.
Doesn't it kind of do the opposite? We like easily see it.
Yeah. It defeats the whole point of the camouflage.
So women have a more chance to survive.
Whoa.
If we go, we'll come back to the slide, but I want to come back here. This peacock right here, is this going to help the peacock survive at all?
No.
Those feathers are like 6 feet long.
When I was younger, I used to think
Well,
those were eyes.
More Mall Cop 2, the peacock actually defeated Paul Blart.
Therefore, they're
Peacocks, male peacocks, do not fly very well because they have 6 foot of feathers that they have to carry around their backside.
Tell that to Mark Wahlberg.
That's why that's funny, because peacocks don't fly very well.
So what is it? I never mind. Penguins.
Wait, so like female?
Peahens are not very big. Their feathers are pretty typical of a female bird. They're not very colorful. Do you think having a set of horns on a moose that big are going to benefit the moose and help it survive in any way?
Yes.
Has anyone heard of so right around when we start cutting corn during the fall season? Anyone ever heard of a buck getting caught in a combine?
a buck.
A buck?
No, but I've heard of a buck getting stuck in a fence.
So when I was growing up, this would happen quite often to my friends that are farmers. When they're going through the cornfield, the small bucks and the does, they get out of the cornfield just fine.
The antlers get caught in the corn.
The bigger the deer, the bigger the buck, the bigger the antlers, the slower it runs through a cornfield. Because you can't see it. Because there's corn over top of it. So you're going. The buck can't run any faster. It gets caught right in the combine.
I've never heard of something that.
The legs get chopped off. It's not great. But
I've never.
having large, heavy horns is not a benefit other than mating. Only reason it means anything.
I mean, I kind of have a story that can relate in a way. I mean, the one year we were cutting corn from our field, my dad was taking it to the corn place. A buck ran straight into our truck, and then my dad finished it off with our dump trailer.
What does that have to do with anything?
It had to do with farming corn.
Animals that are super colorful doesn't help out camouflage, guys. The only thing it helps out doing is mating. And evolution, if you don't reproduce, you don't pass on your DNA. So being able to mate, being able to be noticed so you can mate, is one of the biggest drivers of ecology. It doesn't produce organisms necessarily that have great camouflage, but it produces organisms that are going to be able to get noticed by a potential mate. So there is 2 types of the sexual selection. There's intra-selection, which means competition between the same species but of the same sex of a species. So here we have intra, meaning between male and male. Usually it's competition between a male and a male with intra. Sometimes it can be female to female. White-tailed deer, moose, elk, bighorn sheep, birds like turkeys do this, where it's competition between male and male. Kangaroos, with their big flabby feet and their huge claws on the bottom of their feet, they like to battle it out, but it's the same sex competing with each other. Intra, meaning the same or between. Kangaroos can be mean as well.
Do you remember that YouTube video where the kangaroo took the dog hostage and the guy ran up and punched the kangaroo?
So kangaroos have a defense mechanism. Being the fact that they're bipedal, they can be tall. They'll go when a predator is chasing them. The kangaroo will wade out into a river or a pond, make the predator chase after it, and the kangaroo will hold the predator down underwater.
Die.
Okay, but look at this
body does not move. Like
Kablamo. It's all the tail. Kangaroos can sit back on their tail.
Wow, that's
So they have
strong.
free legs.
Basically.
His tail supports his weight when he does it.
That gut shot though, I'm just like,
Boom.
Why you just
And
how did your organ?
And it's not only that kangaroos are super muscular, on their feet they have a claw that's like this big.
Well, geez, why don't? How does it?
They can't pull it back, but it's a set claw. If you ever get in a fight with a kangaroo, you gotta watch out for the feet. That claw can do some damage.
Good for the tip, Mr. Long.
Everything in Australia wants to kill you.
What about people in Australia?
People in Australia were prison inmates.
There is intersexual selection. So this is the one where the females are driving the characteristics. The females are driving what the males look like. This is a thunder chicken. Well, it's a prairie chicken is what it's called.
Thunder chicken.
The larger, and those are its vocal cords.
So
It's using those to produce a unique sound. The larger those are, the more significant the sound is produced by the chicken. The chicken that produces the larger sound mates because of intersexual selection. The females choose the males that have the larger, more prominent sound.
Thunder chicken.
Here we have a lizard. Pretty common for the males to have an elongated, I can't think of what it's called, but a protrusion that comes out of their throat that they can kick out. It's usually very colorful. The more colorful it is, the more it's going to stand out to a female, the more likely that lizard is going to pass on its DNA through reproduction.
So is that like what bearded dragons do? Like
Bearded dragons do not do this.
Smog is getting
Sorry,
territorial.
I thought smog was
Bearded dragons in the wild traditionally are all black. With the bearded dragon, the mating, it's all about their mouths. So the mouth opens up, they're all black, and they're going to have a bright yellow mouth with bearded dragons in the
Smog's
wild.
watching with us. He's seen this on the lizard.
Yeah,
like,
he's
oh my
getting
God, I wanna be
territorial.
friends with that lizard.
very good glass.
World's weirdest.
Here is an example of an intersexual selection.
This outdoor picnic has an avian invader. But this
Look
satin
at those purple
bowerbird
eyes.
isn't interested in snatching food. He's stealing straws for love. This Australian songbird lives to lure females to his bower. An avenue of sticks built with one purpose in mind: mating.
He just littered plastic
Thinks
straws.
there's
At least they're not in the ocean. These birds are helping us.
No self-respecting female is going to set foot in this bare bones bachelor pad.
it's rules, it's like you. It doesn't
I'm not a bachelor. I'm getting married next weekend.
He needs to
This
remember,
weekend.
It's next weekend?
This weekend.
Oh,
and he knows what the ladies like. Blue is their favorite color. This female is not particularly impressed. To win her heart, he'll have to up the ante.
Do they set this
This is a real thing. This is not like
Now
Hollywood.
that's a big
This is
spender. Finally, the female allows herself to step inside his love nest. Male bowerbirds have an elaborate mating dance. But for this female, a ring seals the deal. At least until the next
It's
girl comes
ecology,
along.
guys.
It was like my ride, but with like a home.
In my house.
So this bird Is the male bird super colorful in this situation?
No.
No.
Eyes are colorful.
He's got colorful purple eyes. So the sexual selection, the intersexual selection, isn't driven by color of the male bird in this case, but it's driven by what's going on.
Dancing.
Dancing,
Hitting the blue.
dancing, and then the bachelor pad, the barrow that the barrow bird makes. The more colorful the bachelor pad, the more likely he's going to attract a mate. So if he does a really good job picking up a whole bunch of colorful objects to put around his bachelor pad, he is going to have a better chance of reproducing. What types of objects did he pick?
Plastic.
Plastic, lots of plastic.
He's not
Do
helping.
you think that is traditional for this species of bird to use around their bachelor pad?
Probably.
Well, what if they find it?
No.
For humans.
Traditionally, they would use flowers.
Oh, I thought you meant like. Never mind.
Traditionally, they would use flowers, but they use that stuff because it's more available.
I got food. You better be making one. Yeah.
Yeah, oh well. Oh man, I didn't get to show you that. I'll show you that on that's really cool. I'll show you that on Wednesday.
See you, Mr. Bell.
Bye.
Are you gonna finish these notes on Wednesday then?
Yeah, we'll finish a little bit of them. Yeah, we'll finish the last two slides.
I've had this done, but I didn't know if we were supposed to do this.
So using the table below, describe the adaptations your creature has for surviving the environment. So based on the environment that you created and this organism here, what are some adaptations that it has for type of soil? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll finish the last two slides Wednesday because the last two are cool.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna do the live time.
It's taken care of. It's been added, so you should have a new schedule for Thursday.
Wait, do you know what time? Do you know what time it is?
It's mod 15 through 18 on Thursday.
15, 18.
Mm-hmm.